Who did this to you?" The words were calm, but the bar fell silent. A torn gown, a trembling breath, a woman standing in the ruins of laughter that wasn't hers. Moments ago, they had mocked her skin, her beauty, her very right to exist in that room. Now the man they'd dismissed as nobody stood before them, his gaze colder than steel. No shouting, no threats, just a quiet fury that promised reckoning. This isn't just a humiliation story. It's about the night arrogance met its end. Where are you watching from? Comment your city below. The night shimmered with city lights as Amara Collins stepped out of the sleek black car, her gown flowing like liquid gold beneath the bar's neon glow. The upscale lounge pulsed with laughter, music, and the clinking of champagne glasses, the kind of place where status spoke louder than words. Amara had never cared for any of that. She was there for a friend's celebration, dressed elegantly but modestly, carrying herself with quiet confidence. From the moment she entered, heads turned. Some admired her poise. Others whispered behind their glasses. Her deep brown skin, radiant under the soft lights, drew eyes. But not all kindly. She smiled anyway, as she always did, choosing grace over confrontation. She found comfort in laughter and small conversations, in pretending that the world outside those polished walls didn't see color the way it truly did. But even amidst the glamour, there was a tension in the air, the kind that hums just beneath the surface, waiting for one careless spark. Amara sensed it. A group near the bar, loud and entitled, watched her with mocking amusement. She caught fragments of their laughter, their words coded in the kind of cruelty that hides behind jokes. She brushed it off, trying to believe the night would stay peaceful. Her husband, Elias, was away on business, or so everyone thought. The truth was, he was closer than anyone knew, a man who preferred quiet power over public show. Amara didn't need his shadow to stand tall. She had built her dignity on her own. But life, she'd learned, had a way of testing even the strongest spirit. As the music swelled and her friends toasted to love and success, Amara felt a chill, subtle but real. Something about the night was shifting. And before it was over, this bar, these people, this laughter, would remember her name for all the wrong reasons. The storm hadn't started yet, but the air was already trembling. It began with a whisper, the kind that slides through a crowd like smoke. At first, Amara barely noticed. The bar was alive with chatter, the hum of music wrapping around every corner. But soon, the laughter grew sharper, cutting through the air like glass. She turned, catching a glimpse of the group near the counter. 4 men and 2 women. Expensively dressed, their eyes glinting with mischief that tasted of arrogance. One of the women, blonde hair, red lips, confidence soaked in privilege, leaned toward her friends, her voice just loud enough to carry. She must have borrowed that gown. No way she could afford it. The others laughed, their mockery disguised as amusement. Amara's pulse quickened, but she forced a smile. She'd learned long ago that silence was often safer than pride. Minutes passed. A spilled drink, a mistaken bump. A glass of champagne was poured just a little too close to her hand. The comments turned crueler, not just about her gown, but her skin, her presence, and the audacity of her being there. "You don't belong here," one of the men sneered softly, his grin never reaching his eyes. Amara's friends shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to react. This was supposed to be a night of joy, not confrontation. But humiliation doesn't wait for the right moment. It strikes when the world is watching. One of the men stood, his arrogance swelling with every laugh from his companions. "Come on, sweetheart," he said mockingly, gesturing toward her gown. "Let's see if that gold still shines under real light." Before she could step back, his hand tugged at the fabric, a cruel, deliberate motion. The sound of ripping silk echoed louder than the music. The room fell silent. Amara froze, the torn edge of her gown slipping through her fingers. Laughter erupted, sharp and merciless. Her heart pounded in her chest, not from shame but from disbelief. Every eye in the bar was on her. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the waiter who'd been smiling minutes ago looked away. Her friend tried to intervene, but one of the bullies blocked the way. Relax, he said, smirking. It's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. Sensitive. The word stung more than the act. Amara stood there trembling, not because of fear, but because she refused to let them see her break. She straightened her back, holding what was left of her dignity like armor. Enjoy your joke, she said quietly, turning toward the exit. But before she could take a step, a voice cut through the silence. Is this how you treat guests? It was deep, steady, and calm, yet it carried a weight that silenced even the laughter. Heads turned. From the dim corner near the entrance, a tall man stepped forward. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes, dark, cold, unwavering, spoke volumes. Amara's breath caught. Elias. The room shifted. The men who'd laughed now stood still, confusion flickering across their faces. Elias wasn't dressed for drama, just a charcoal suit, sleeves rolled, no tie. But there was something about the way he carried himself, quiet authority that didn't need to announce itself. Who owns this place? He asked softly. No one answered. He turned to the bartender who stumbled over his words. Sir, Elias didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The silence was enough. He took off his jacket and placed it gently over Amara's shoulders, his hand brushing hers. A silent promise that this humiliation wouldn't end here. The bullies smirked again, trying to recover their dominance. And who are you supposed to be? One asked. Elias looked at him. One measured, quiet glance. You'll find out soon enough. And in that moment, every soul in the bar felt the ground shift beneath their feet. They didn't know it yet, but the night that began in mockery would end in ruin. The air thickened with tension as Elias stepped closer, his calm composure more unnerving than rage. The men straightened instinctively, their laughter dying in their throats. The music had stopped, leaving only the faint hum of fear. Amara stood silent beside him, the torn edge of her gown catching the light like a scar. Elias glanced at the bartender. Lock the doors, he said quietly. No one questioned him. Within seconds, the metallic click echoed through the bar. The bullies exchanged nervous glances, their earlier arrogance slipping away. I asked a simple question, Elias continued. Who owns this place? The manager hesitated, then stammered. Mr. Huxley, sir. He's one of them. Elias nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. Interesting. He turned his gaze to Huxley, the man who'd torn Amara's gown. Do you know who owns you now? Confusion flashed across Huxley's face, then dread. Elias slid his phone across the counter. On the screen, a signed document, a finalized acquisition, glowed. The company that funded this bar now belonged to him. You tried to humiliate my wife in an establishment I purchased yesterday, Elias said softly. And now you'll apologize, not to me, to her. The color drained from their faces. Pride turned to panic. Words stumbled out. Apologies, pleas, trembling regret. Amara watched quietly, her dignity untouchable. Elias's final words cut through the silence. You tore her gown to feel powerful. Tonight I tore down your empire to remind you what power truly is. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. By morning, the once crowded bar was deserted. The music had stopped, the lights dimmed, and the laughter that once filled the room was replaced by silence and shame. Word spread quickly. The bar had been sold overnight, its accounts frozen, its reputation ruined. Every face that had mocked Amara now carried regret too heavy to hide. Amara didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Standing by the window of their penthouse the next day, she looked out at the city, the same city that had watched her be humiliated, and now watched her rise without a single word of vengeance. Elias joined her quietly, his hand finding hers. There was no triumph in his eyes, only love, and the quiet understanding that some wounds don't heal with revenge, only with respect restored. What happened that night wasn't about money or status. It was about dignity. A reminder that behind every cruel laugh, every act of prejudice, there's a heart being crushed in silence. But there's also resilience, the kind that refuses to be erased. The world moved on. But those who were there would never forget the lesson carved into that night. Humiliation has a cost, and sometimes it's everything you once owned. And for Amara, it wasn't victory she carried. It was peace. A calm, unshakable peace born from knowing she never needed to fight for worth that was already hers. Thanks for watching. Tell us, what does dignity mean to you?